Hello horror fans, and welcome to another episode of Silver Screams. Tonight we are talking to you about Scream Queens episode 9, Ghost Stories.
This was such a fun episode.
It really was. It's so weird seeing an episode that exonerates so many people all at once, to the point where you're going, who could the killer possibly be? Because it's essentially been narrowed down to 2 people, assuming that everybody who we think is dead is actually dead.
Well, and at this point, we're, what, 3 episodes from the finale?
We're very close. I want to say 3 or 4.
So
I want to say
yeah.
10, 11, 12, 13, so 4. 4 left, I'm assuming. This is assuming we have 13 episodes. I'll be honest, I haven't looked into it because, guys, I don't want to get spoiled for anything. I don't want to see any press releases ahead of time. I don't want any of that.
This one might also count as episode 10 because weird numbering schemes.
Yeah, it's
who even knows?
weird. I don't
It's
even know.
bizarre. So yeah, we don't have many episodes left, so it's good that we've ruled out some people.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that Chanel number 3 and number 5 and Hester are officially exonerated.
As is Earl Grey, so there goes your theory.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel so bad for him.
I do, because he seemed like the only decent guy in that fraternity.
And he went the extra mile for Zayday, like, no, I need everything to be perfect. I have this and this and this, and it'll be wonderful for both of us. Just like, obviously caring very much. It's like, oh.
Yeah, he legitimately wanted to make her happy.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just, although, yeah, he did say, I have a system. And even she was like, you're such a player. But it was in that very cute, flirty sort of way.
He's not Chad Radwell.
Yeah, he's not like...
And his brothers, Brad and Stad. Something.
The twins, Roger and Dodger. And then the guy...
No. Chad named his brothers, and their names are like Brad and Tad, or Brad and Stad, or something. My mom and dad and my brothers, Brad and Stad Radwell.
I thought you were
and also
talking
their
about the
place is
fraternity
haunted.
brothers.
So like occasionally the furniture will just start screaming, and you'll pop open a Mountain Dew and start drinking it, and it'll turn into blood.
Because a former
This isn't
fling...
actually blood, this is Vinique. So.
Because a former fling of either his father or his grandfather...
His father, he said.
...committed suicide on their property, and the place has been haunted ever since. Like, to the point where you'll be drinking a can of Mountain Dew and it'll turn into blood. Yeah, that's disgusting.
Anyway, we're gonna have the dopest time. Just like, and that is how you handle living in a haunted house.
Did you just roll
and
with it?
I say that as someone who used to live in a haunted house. You're just like, oh, must be Tuesday. Admittedly, the ghosts in the house I was in were benign and preferred to play pranks as opposed to blood.
Yeah, you never had the blood curdling stuff or screaming furniture or blood dripping from the walls, all Amityville style.
That was the house down the way. No, seriously.
Kill it with fire!
That was the house down the way, and that was only because she disregarded all of the warnings and went up into the attic and set up a nice little art studio there, and then bad things happened. Because she was told the ghost lives in the attic and doesn't like being disturbed, so just, leave it alone. And she didn't. So things occurred.
That's a screenplay waiting to happen. This
is stuff that actually happened.
Well, speaking of ghost stories, most of the framework of this episode is centered around scary stories, of course. And we have self-appointed house mother Denise, basically wanting to tell scary stories to get the girl's mind off of things like potentially being murdered by a serial killer. Or
haunted by the ghost of Boone.
Yeah.
This is what exonerates Chanel number 2, is that she saw Boone and Three. Right. Mixing up my Chanel.
2's been dead.
2's been
quite
dead for
some time.
a while.
Yes.
Well, 2's obviously not the killer, so she's exonerated anyway.
Yes, but this exonerates Chanel number 3 is that Boone is on the phone with who we find out is his sister, who is the other Red Devil. And he's just, content walking around in his disguise.
Pretending to be Joaquin Phoenix.
Surprisingly works.
Well, and here's the other fun thing. Dude has obviously never heard of spirit gum. Because he manages to spill his drink all over his face and it just washes his mustache and beard right off. I'm like, dude, no. All of your crap about learning stage makeup and learning to do this and that and the other, and you never figured out spirit gum? Really? Come on. That stuff, I'm fairly certain spirit gum is not water soluble.
Point being, his disguise falls off just in time for Chanel number 3 to come in and see him. And yeah, she thinks it's a ghost. And he rolls.
You're haunting me for not letting you gay pledge. Like, oh boy.
And she's like, it's okay. I guess I'm kind of gay now too. And good for her for like acknowledging it. And but yeah, she's so scared about Chad coming back to haunt her.
Boone.
Boone coming back to haunt her. I will say that it's interesting that he did roll with this ghost thing, and it does make me wonder ultimately what his and his sister's agendas were, because he's kind of dead now. They want revenge. He also wanted Zayday, but ultimately, who do they want revenge on? Just Kappa House in general, the Dean specifically, Chanel specifically. Who do they want revenge on? Because he could have taken this as an opportunity to kill her specifically, and he didn't. Because if she hadn't have fallen for it, that would have been, the cat would have been out of the bag.
I get the feeling that he and his sister have mostly been following Gigi's lead, because she's the one that I made the plan for revenge. That's been like 20 years in the making, and that would have been since when they were teeny tiny children with no concept of revenge. So I get the feeling that it is Gigi's plan, and she has drafted them and made her think like that and train them and all this ridiculous stuff. Excuse me. And to
the point where his sister has drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
And is willing to even go so far as to kill him to get her revenge.
So I think that the Red Devils don't act without Gigi say so. I think she really is the puppet master for this one.
And that's why him going and kidnapping Zayday was such a big deal, because that was the first time he went rogue.
And also, we're kidnappers, not murderers. So there's a difference between
murderers, not kidnappers.
Thank you. Blah, blah.
We're both. We are both wording real well tonight.
It's been a long week, you guys. It's been awesome. I mean, why do you think we're recording this on Sunday? It's been a long week.
True that.
So long.
Super long.
Requires more booze. But yeah, so I really think that Gigi has been the puppet master for everything behind this, and that our villainous monologue at the end is mostly going to come from her, but we will have some form of explanation from whoever's still under the mask.
Yeah, and again, I really want to know who this is, because most of this episode seemed to be indicating that it was Hester, only for Hester to be killed off at the end of the episode, which basically, given that Chanel number 3, clearly wasn't in on it, and Chanel number 5 got attacked, that the only 2 ladies that are the proper age and would make sense for it to be would be Chanel and Grace, neither of whom actually makes sense to be the Red Devil, because even though we know Chanel is capable of murder, and we've seen that multiple times, it doesn't make sense for her as Chanel to be overt about her murderous tendencies and then be the Red Devil on the side. That doesn't make sense.
Well, and we also had stories about her mom and how she was raised. And I get the point about how she might have been adopted, but that's still, you get raised in that setting and then someone says, hey, you're actually this, now come join our evil plan. She'd be like, no, I'm better than you.
Like, I got a good thing going here. I don't need any of that in my life. If anything, she would want to hide that under the rug.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. But it also doesn't necessarily make sense for Grace to be the killer either, just based on everything that we've seen. Because she genuinely seemed to want to know the truth, and she genuinely seems to care about the people that they've lost. Although, have we seen her? And I feel like we've seen her at least at one point with either one or both Red Devils.
And we have a police report for her as well, saying, there was we basically have the paper trail for her mom, and we have her dad corroborating. So unless her dad's in on this, which is super unlikely.
Well, and you know what exonerates the both of them as well? Neither of them grew up in a mental institution.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hester would have been the only one that fit, and now she's dead, and it doesn't seem to work anymore. So the only way I feel like this works is that if it is Hester and she's not actually dead here. But even that doesn't make any sense, because she'd still be hurt. And it would have made sense for it to be her too, because of birthing complications which caused her scoliosis.
Yeah.
Which, as we found out in this episode, she was born after her mother died. And yeah, that would have probably caused some birth defects, but it also doesn't make sense for somebody who has a spinal issue like that to be running around wielding axes and chainsaws. That's a lot of strain. Even just standing in high heels was hurting her. So it really wouldn't make much sense for her to put on boots and a costume and to run around, again, with an axe.
And it'd be hard to fit the neck brace under that costume, and we get a lot of dynamic movement from the Red Devil, so there's not...
Which I still absolutely love the Red Devil design and just the presence exuded when the Red Devil is on screen. Because I watched a slasher movie last night called Stage Fright, and this masked killer did not stop talking. It's like, well, and singing too. When he sang, it was like this metal ballad stuff, and when he talked, it was like this gravelly wannabe Batman voice. And it made me realize how much I really appreciate the silent masked killer thing. I'm like, you were so much more imposing when you're not
point of a masked killer.
When you're not trying to, I'm talking like this. That, and because you hear their actual voice, it makes it a dead giveaway who they actually are. So, like, Ghostface can get away with it because of the voice changer.
Yeah.
And it's cool whenever you hear Ghostface talk, because it doesn't happen very often.
And it's off screen. It's always through the phone.
Almost always off screen. There are 1 or 2 instances where you hear Ghostface talking while it's also on screen. It's very rare, but it does happen. But because it's rare, when you hear him speak, you're like, holy shit, he's right there. It's scary.
I don't actually remember any of those.
There was a point in Scream 2 where he's on the phone with Sydney, and she's like, why don't you just, say that to my face or something like that, and then you hear his voice in the room, he's like, with pleasure. And, that sort of thing. It's like, that's good, and that's well executed. So yeah, anyway, it is way, way, way scarier when the Red Devil doesn't say anything, because it could literally be anybody, or in the case of some supernatural stuff, anything. Like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, things like that. So much, much more imposing when the Red Devil says nothing. It just stands there holding the knife, knowing that you're not going to get away from him. That's pretty sweet. And we also feel like it has to be somebody who was in the room when Denise was telling these scary stories.
Because we had the red cape, red cloak?
The red cloak.
Red cloak. Toilet paper. It's like, okay, you got the red toilet paper or the blue toilet paper, and you can choose how to die. And I'm like, no, at that point you just pull it up and go. Like, I think we can all be forgiven for not making the choice and just leaving.
I think I'll use a different restroom. I think I'll hold it for a little bit.
It's like, no.
Although, if you notice, she accidentally brushed her hand against the blue one, and that's why he started strangling her. So very, very clever, very subtle. But,
and the thing about the Kappa, the thing is, there is a Japanese monster called a Kappa. It's basically kind of an underwater vampire. They live in ponds and whatnot.
Not toilets.
So if you see, they do it a lot in cartoons now, in much the same way we do like little fun werewolves and whatnot. If you see kind of like a scaly looking monster with a lily pad on its head and a beak, that's a Kappa. They live in the water. They lure people into the water and drown them. There is none of this toilet stuff.
Vagina grabbing.
No, not at all.
But leave it to Denise to embellish a story like that to that degree. Although I really appreciated the Candyman reference too. Yeah, no, it's really good. I'm not going to say it the third time. No.
And then Hester telling what is essentially the hook hand Mandor hook hand thing.
Yeah, the killer in the back seat, which, not gonna lie, because of this urban legend, which I heard years and years ago, I always check my back seat when I hop into my car. Always. I watched
basic safety.
I watched enough scary movies to know, and this is something that kind of makes me laugh anytime anybody's like, why do you watch that stuff? And I'm like, well, I've seen enough of them to know, always check the back seat, always do this, make sure your cell phone's charged if you're going out on an adventure of some sort. That sort of thing.
Or just going out. Like, I got 5% battery, I'll be fine. No, honey. No.
No. Anywho, but yeah, and it also would have made sense for Hester to have been the killer because she told that story. And so it would have made sense for her to take ownership of it when attacking Chanel number 5.
Who says the Kappa house isn't bugged?
It very well could be. It could be that the sister is somebody we think is dead, but isn't much in the same way that we thought Boone was dead, and he wasn't. Who knows? Maybe it was Taylor Swift.
You know what? I wonder if it's Chanel number 4.
It may very well be.
I think they sidestepped that one because of joke/copyright infringement, because Chanel number 4 is a perfume. But that would be really funny because she died off screen. She got sick and went home and then died there, so no one can confirm anything. It could be her.
It could be. She, exited stage left before the show even started. So it's entirely possible. And again, the former head of the Kappa house was attacked by the Red Devil, and we never got an explanation as to why. Why was it important to take her out? Was it to get Chanel in a position of power? Or was it because she had something that we never hear why? And it's really
we do hear
weird
that she survived.
Yeah, it's really weird to have attacked this girl and then wait another year before the rest of the plan is enacted. It seems very odd, and it seems odd to wait this long for revenge anyway.
I wonder if it might not have something to do with Grace showing up this year, because she is the daughter of the former president who...
Like, maybe this is done to punish her.
Possibly.
Like, very similar to Scream's, sins of the parent or the sins of the child, that sort of thing. Where it's like, your mother did this, and that means I'm coming after you now, I'm going to make you suffer.
But then you could never guarantee that Grace would actually show up, or that she would run, or, like, how could you ever know any of that? I feel like whatever explanation we have is going to have some fairly good-sized plot holes in it regardless. I think the season has written itself into that much of a corner. They're really going to have to pull it out for that not to be the case. And I'm okay with that.
The thing, we also covered a murder mystery on Z Nation earlier today as well. And I will say that my biggest complaint about murder mysteries, in terms of murder mysteries that are not executed well, are the murder mysteries where the person who is the perpetrator was there for all of 2 seconds, and then this big reveal at the end is like, oh, it was me the whole time. It's like, who are you again? Why, this is supposed to be a big reveal. Why? I don't know who you are, so this doesn't feel like a betrayal. I'm surprised, but only because I don't remember you.
It was extra number 3!
Yeah.
It would be funny if you fourth-walled it or parodied it.
Yeah. It kind of like...
That's the only way you can really...
Yeah, the only way to make that work is if you make it work as a joke.
I feel like this show could do that.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just kind of frustrating because when I think of Agatha Christie style reveals where you look back at the entire story and you're like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. I never saw it coming, but if you look at this piece and this piece and this piece all in sequential order, it makes sense.
Well, for me, that was Scream.
Yeah.
It's just like, wait.
Didn't expect it to be who it was.
Oh.
You're talking about MTV Scream, right?
No, I'm talking about the movie.
Actual Scream, yes. That, that was very good, and I get frustrated at myself when I see really good murder mysteries because I don't see it coming, because I jump to the conclusion that it's everybody.
That's how you know it's a really good murder mystery.
Exactly, but you look back at the rest of the film, and everything he says and does makes sense. And you're like, oh my god, that fits in so perfectly.
But you're at the point of suspect everyone, and also high school guys are morons.
Yeah.
Which... and I'm sure there's some high school guys out there watching, but guys, as a whole, high school students make some pretty boneheaded decisions.
Point being that it's one of those things that it makes sense the first time you watch it, and it makes sense when you watch it again.
Yes.
And I love murder mysteries that can do that. Murder mysteries that don't do that, and instead, like I brought up earlier tonight on the show, like Devil. where a bunch of people trapped in an elevator together, and the devil was the old lady the whole time. It's like, that's not a good twist.
Did anyone watch Devil?
Probably. I certainly...
Maybe. He made other movies after that.
Or even if we want to tie it back to Scream, even the third Scream. No, like, I will say that even Scream 2 was kind of did that a little bit with the reveal of Mrs. Loomis, and did it really badly in the reveal for 3. The reveal for 1 and 4 were perfect because they made sense, both of them. Speaking of Chanel, or regular Chanel, talking about that. Anywho, so I'm really hoping that whatever they have planned, it's not a half-assed whatever. Ryan Murphy likes to do things to extremes, so if they were to do that, I would hope that it would be played up for comedy, and I would hope that the punchline is strong enough to make me forgive that shortcoming.
I honestly think that we're going to wind up somewhere where, unless they can explain some stuff really well, we're just going to have plot holes. Whether it's the Red Devil can teleport, or how were you with the... I realize you got a lot to keep track of, but dang.
Yeah, although we know for sure that unlike the poor detective in this show, we know that it's not paranormal. What is wrong with you people?
I just love that we're... And you've done this, and the theory that I've been banking on is that it's been a ghost. And just the reaction shot was beautiful.
You have to be kidding me. It's so funny. It's like, guys, there is a man who is dead outside because you guys are twiddling your thumbs and being idiots. And it was nice to have the dean finally let him have it because at first it was super convenient for her as long as suspicion was pointed away from her. It was very convenient to have a dumb detective. Now that more innocent people are dead and she's being called out on it, and she can't hide from it anymore, she can't pretend like it's not her or that she has nothing to do with it.
If the university can't open up again, there goes her career.
Yeah, exactly.
So at this point it has to get resolved, hopefully in a way that doesn't bring up the fact that she murdered her ex-husband. I would love to see her brought to justice. Honestly.
It's funny because she's a terrible person, but she's intriguing to watch.
That's the thing, we forgive her for what she does because she's so interesting. In the same way that for most of this series, we've forgiven Chanel for killing Miss B because she's so interesting and has so much potential for redemption. We've just kind of glossed over the fact that, yeah, she murdered someone who supremely did not deserve it in the first episode.
And
admittedly, it was by accident because it was supposed to be a mean-spirited prank, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and even here, she does a little bit of fourth walling. You know, it's a little bit of the screenwriter directly talking to the audience. Is her after she pushes Hester down the stairs. And I will be honest, for a moment, for a very brief moment, when she first says "I'm sorry," I believed her.
It's good delivery.
For a moment.
Very
just
good
a
delivery.
moment. But then, because she's like, I'm sorry that you had to go through life with people making fun of you. And then right after, she's like, and then I'm sorry, I'm jealous. And then I was like, nope. This is a ploy. But after she pushes her down the stairs, she even says, I'm sure that I can redeem myself morally in the eyes of the audience. And it's not
in the eyes of the audience, it's just
in
all of your eyes.
In all of your eyes.
Because she's talking to the two other Chanels who
I mean, she might as well have said the eyes of the audience.
It's like, I realize that some may think that my, doing this to Chanel number 6 is beyond the pale, but I'm fully confident that I can morally redeem myself in all of your eyes. It's just like, yeah, she says to the audience.
Wink. But she's not wrong, because she's done it before. And let's face it, Hester, like, you were talking about it earlier, with so many of these characters, we go back and forth between really genuinely liking them and hating them. Because Hester will do something that's really funny, and then she'll be a psychopath. And do something as horrible as pretending to be pregnant to get the guy that she wants. And same with Chanel. We'll see her have a heartfelt talk with Grace, and then in the very next episode, she literally pushed someone down the stairs to murder her. Like, and is totally content with throwing her in the meat locker and sweeping all of this under the rug. So...
Because that meat locker is just super secure, you guys.
Jeez. Like, once bodies started disappearing from it, I feel like you should have stopped. Like, at least find a new place in the event that somebody else dies.
But there's less hard labor involved in just going to the meat locker than there is in actually
Well, and then the body disappears, and then it's not your problem anymore.
Until it shows up at your haunted house.
Jeez. I will say that, like, I think I had some really favorite moments from Chanel number 5 in this episode. Because she hits her limit and she leaves, and then is forced to come back in, like, after a really great sequence. Which, I don't know why she would go back if the Red Devil wasn't in her back seat anymore. I would have hopped in and then kept going. But I guess she panicked.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was...
Well, you don't want to lead the Red Devil home.
No, I suppose not. But she makes a good point. Like, it wouldn't surprise her if he picked them all off one by one, no matter where they went. We saw that. Earlier, the Red Devil was willing to travel 6 hours to take someone out. It's... long way to go for revenge, I suppose.
Yeah, but Gigi probably sent Boone.
Probably. Anywho,
speaking of which, Boone is super dead.
He's super dead, and it was funny seeing him, like, reconnect with Chad and try to pull off this whole ghost thing. And
you know what this shirt is made of? Boyfriend material. Just like, get out.
Does that even work on anybody before you faked your death?
I like puns. That wasn't even a pun. That was just awful.
It was pretty bad. And I am a little disappointed that he was pretending to be gay and that he wasn't just bi. Like, I would have really appreciated it if he was just a bi character, but the fact that he... I guess it's... you have to invent a kind of version of yourself in order to enact your evil scheme, I guess is the way to put it. But yeah, I would have preferred it if he had just been bi. If that had just been, like, a facet of his personality.
But then you have a bi character who's evil. Like, I don't know. I'm not bi. I can't speak for it. I don't know how anyone else feels about their representation. But I feel like it's almost worse for him to be pretending to be gay. Like, seriously, bro.
Yeah. Anyway.
Makes him worse as a character, I mean.
Yeah. Anyway, point being, I did like seeing him reconnect with Chad. That was fun. The bros.
I take my packing very seriously.
Yeah, he spends this entire episode
me?
packing for Thanksgiving. Oh gosh, how much stuff do you need for like a 4-day trip? It's not. And he's like air compressing everything. It's just ridiculous. It's so funny. A lot of Dutch angles in this episode too. There's a lot of stuff being off kilter and sort of out of place in terms of where it would normally be in frame. And then there's a lot of being straight on and then starting to tilt. So
Chanel also threatened to kill Chad.
Yeah. Are you the killer? I guess we'll see. Which
bitch I might be.
Pretty much. And I also want to point out that I'm not going to pretend like I'm high fashion couture expert or anything, but what the hell was Chanel wearing in this episode?
With the weight and the gloves and the tube top with the long and the I don't understand.
I don't get it either.
I usually get some of her more outlandish outfits, but I don't understand.
I don't get it either. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend like I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to high fashion. But some of her dresses have been a little outlandish. This was just, like, perplexing.
Did you not do laundry in 3 weeks?
I don't know. But it was also funny that they kept bringing up that as it was their last night in Kappa, that was the night they were most likely going to be murdered. Little on the nose, but still pretty funny.
But then we're rolling into Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And we have the... Are we in predictions territory?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about predictions because it looks like Chad's family doesn't think very highly of Chanel either.
Oh yeah, they call her trash to her face. Like, oh honey.
Yeah.
And she admits to him that, yes, I killed for our relationship. And we see, and this for me is like, how the heck can any of these people be the Red Devil? We see the Red Devil sitting with Gigi and her making a crack about, well, this wasn't how I planned on spending Thanksgiving. So, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's... It's
but
really
it
hard to
obviously
say.
can't be someone that we saw travel to go someplace else. So that exonerates Chanel if we have that at face value.
Yeah. And again, it wouldn't make sense for it to be Chanel. So I guess it's either somebody who has to be dead, somebody we haven't or has to be dead, quote unquote, somebody we haven't seen, and it's just going to be up here, and they're like, so that when they're unmasked, it's like, who are you? Oh, I'm Boone's sister. I'm the bathtub baby. But I've never seen you before. Of course you haven't.
I've been wearing a mask the whole time.
I've been in disguise all this time.
Then
Why?
we have to work really hard to make that actually work.
Yeah, no, they really,
That'd be
really
a very
would.
difficult one to pull off in a satisfactory manner.
Yeah. Which I don't want that. But right now that's starting to look like it's the only thing that can happen unless it's somebody who's pretending to be dead.
Season 2 is going to have a lot to live up to.
It really is, but luckily, you know, this season will wrap up, so we're not going to drag out this red double thing any longer.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that'll be good. And season 2 will probably be something completely different, which I like and appreciate. Who knows, maybe it'll take place at a summer camp, and it'll be one of those summer camp horror movies. That'll be so great. I don't know, I want it.
Okay.
I want it. So, I guess that basically wraps it up for this episode. I want to know from you guys, what slasher setting would you want season 2 to take place in? Would you want it to be a summer camp? Would you want it to be the suburbs instead of a college campus? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear what you guys think season 2 should be about. Should it be a supernatural slasher? Should it be a regular one? No?
No.
No? You want to keep things firmly grounded in reality?
As far as grounded in reality as Ryan Murphy can do. He lives in some weird AU where stereotypes are the norm, let's be real.
Heightened stereotypes, like super hyperbole exists. Anywho, Katie, Cullen, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin.
It's been a long day, hasn't it?
I was going to say, and Instagram, but I was already in the middle of spelling it. You can also follow me on Instagram. Be sure to follow Silver Screams on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's silver_screams. We want to hear from you guys, so let us know what you thought about tonight's episode and who you think the second Red Devil is, if we know who they could possibly be at all.
Also, holiday horror that you would like us to review. We're not doing Thanksgiving. It's not going to happen.
No. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you all next time.